Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. The fork slipped from my hand when she tapped the glass. I am Hannah, 27, and my sister's maid of honor had just grabbed the mic. Everyone turned toward her. I stayed fixed on my plate. My stomach already knew something was off before my brain caught up. She smiled too wide, and that smile was never good news. She raised the microphone like she had been waiting all night for this. People started clapping and chairs scraped as a few guests whistled. My sister sat at the head table with her new husband, and that part still felt unreal. I tried to match their happy faces because that is what a good sister does. I had no idea that I was about to be the main joke. She started soft, talking about how my sister always put others first. People nodded along and laughed at the usual wedding jokes. I relaxed a little because none of it was about me yet. Then she shifted her weight and said my name, and everything inside me braced. Every head swung toward our table when she said it. I felt the room close in though nobody had moved an inch. She laughed into the mic and called me the emotional one of the family. People chuckled because that sounded harmless enough, and I forced a grin. I told myself it was banter and that I could take a little teasing. She kept going, and each line landed closer to the bone. She joked that my sister had to plan the wedding around my schedule because I am always overwhelmed. More laughter rolled across the hall, and I laughed too, even though my throat felt tight. My palms started to sweat, and I wiped them on my dress under the table. It already felt like we had crossed some invisible line I never agreed to. The videographer turned the camera on me, and that made everything worse. I could see the red light shining and knew this was permanent now. I sat up straighter and tried to arrange my face into something that looked amused. My cheeks hurt from holding that expression, and my eyes kept drifting to the exit. Running felt dramatic, yet staying put felt like slow public peeling. She glanced at me again, and her smile sharpened in a way I recognized. She said she wanted to thank me for all my relationship experiments over the years. People leaned closer because they sensed something juicy coming, and I knew it too. My fiancé slid his hand onto my knee under the table, and his fingers pressed hard. I stared at my ring and hoped she would stop there. She did not stop there, and of course that is the part everyone remembers. She called me the practice girlfriend who taught half the guys in town how to date right for their real partners. The whole room burst out laughing, and some people actually slapped the table. I heard a couple of whoops, and I wanted the floor to open up. My jaw locked, and what came out of me was a sound that might have been a laugh or a choke. My chest tightened, and suddenly breathing felt like work instead of autopilot. I could not swallow, and my drink sat untouched in front of me like a dare. I kept my eyes on the condensation sliding down the glass because looking up felt dangerous. My ears rang, and her voice sounded distant even though the speakers were right above us. I remember thinking, if I cry now, they will joke about that too. She turned her body toward me and said the family screw-up finally found someone willing to keep me. That line hit harder than the practice girlfriend joke because it sounded true in her mouth. The laughter hit another peak, and my sister covered her face for a second as if she could not handle it. Her shoulders shook, and I could not tell if it was from laughter or shame. I felt something crack inside, and it was not small. My sister finally dropped her hands, and our eyes met across the tables. Her smile faltered for a second, then she pushed it back on like a mask. That tiny slip told me she knew this had gone too far already. She looked away quickly and nodded at the maid of honor to keep going. I sat there pinned between their shared history and my own rising anger. "You okay right now, Hannah? You seem frozen." My fiancé kept his voice low near my ear. I nodded because saying no would make everything real in a way I could not handle yet. His fingers dug into my knee, and it was the only steady thing I felt. For a second I thought he might stand up and say something, and my whole body tensed. I whispered, "Do not even think about it," and my lips barely moved. Up at the front she lifted her glass and said, "We all love Hannah anyway." Everyone raised their drinks, and some people turned toward me like this was my cue to bow. The DJ cut the music, and the moment felt huge and wrong at the same time. I pushed my chair back and the scrape cut through the noise sharper than her jokes. For a heartbeat, the whole hall watched me stand there like I might give a speech of my own. I muttered that I needed the restroom, and my voice did not sound like mine. No one tried to stop me, and that hurt in a new way. I walked across the dance floor with every step heavy and my dress suddenly too tight. The first song after the toast started up behind me, and the beat chased me to the doorway. I shoved the bathroom door open and only then let my face drop. The noise from the hall dulled once the door swung shut and I finally inhaled. My reflection looked like someone else had worn my features for a joke and then handed them back. Mascara had clumped at the corners of my eyes, and my smile was completely gone. I gripped the edge of the sink and tried to decide whether to fix my makeup or my life first. I did not know yet how many times I would see that moment replayed on other people's phones. I slammed the stall lock down and braced my heel against it. My heart was loud enough that I thought people outside could hear. I sat on the lid in my dress and tried to breathe slow. Every laugh from the hall still slipped through the wall and would not stop. I remember thinking if I stayed in there long enough I might disappear. My phone buzzed in my clutch once, then twice, then nonstop. I ignored it for a minute because I did not trust my hands. When I finally dug it out, my thumb shook over the screen. The bridesmaids' chat sat on top with a fresh burst of messages. I already knew that nothing good waited in there. I opened it anyway because apparently I like pain with proof. The newest photo was my sister and the maid of honor at the head table. Both held their glasses up and looked thrilled like this was a roast show. Underneath it, the caption said "Nailed that speech" with 3 party emojis. My chest tightened again, and my first instinct was to type something nice. Another text popped up before I could answer anything. One of the other bridesmaids had written that was savage but hilarious. Someone else replied crying from laughter right now, and I wanted to throw my phone. No one asked if I was okay, and my name only showed up as the target. Reading it felt worse than sitting through the actual toast. A notification from social media slid down over the chat. My cousin had already uploaded a short clip from the microphone moment. The preview froze on my face at the table while people around me laughed. I watched my own fake smile in a tiny rectangle while sitting on a toilet. That was the moment I realized this would live longer than the flowers. Another knock hit the bathroom door farther out in the room. "Hannah, you in here?" My fiancé's voice carried through the echo, and my spine went rigid. I did not answer at first because I did not trust what would come out. He knocked again, and this time my name sounded sharper. "I'm here." My voice bounced off the tile and came back thin. "You okay?" he asked through the door. "Your sister wants a picture." Of course, there had to be a family photo right after a public shredding. I stared at my reflection in the metal latch and pretended to decide. I cracked the stall door open a little and peeked toward the sinks. He stood near the entrance with his tie loosened and worry all over him. Seeing his face almost broke whatever control I still had. "I need a minute," I said. "Tell her I am fixing my makeup." He studied me like he was trying to measure how bad the damage was. He stepped closer and lowered his voice so it would not carry. "If you want to leave, we can go right now." The offer hit me hard because leaving sounded like pure relief. It also sounded like handing the maid of honor a win she would treasure. I shook my head and gripped the edge of the sink until my knuckles ached. I am not running out of my sister's wedding. Saying it out loud made the stubborn part of me stand up. He exhaled and nodded once, and I could tell he wanted to argue. "Fine," he answered, "but you do not have to pretend it was funny." I looked away because I already knew I was about to pretend anyway. He slipped back out to stall the photographer, and I faced the mirror. Mascara had smudged near one eye, and my lipstick was half gone. I cleaned what I could with a tissue and whatever was left of my patience. My hand still shook so badly that my eyeliner came out uneven. I told myself no one would notice from a distance if I kept smiling. The group chat pinged again while I leaned toward the glass. The maid of honor had dropped another message in there. "Love you, Hannah, you know I joke because we're close." My jaw clenched so hard I felt it in my ears. I typed out 3 separate replies and erased each one before sending. In the end, I went with the safest lie I could manage. All good, I wrote, you just roasted me hard out there. I added a laughing emoji. I did not feel it all inside. Almost immediately, she reacted with hearts and a little crown emoji. Seeing that crown made something deep in me go suspiciously quiet. When I stepped out of the bathroom, the hallway felt slightly tilted. Music and chatter poured through the doors like nothing strange had happened. Two guests brushed past me and barely glanced in my direction. It hit me that for most of them, I was just another punchline that landed. I squared my shoulders and walked back into the hall like I was fine. Our table came into view, and I could feel eyes flick toward me. A couple of people smiled with that awkward sympathy grin. One guy at a nearby table nudged his friend and murmured something. They both looked down when I met their gaze, and that told its own story. I kept moving because stopping would mean crumbling right there. My sister saw me first and lifted her hand in a quick wave. Her expression wobbled for half a second, then settled into party mode again. Come on, she called, we need you for the siblings shot. Her voice sounded bright and rehearsed like she was overcompensating. I walked toward her and waited for any actual apology to appear. Before I could reach the head table, the maid of honor intercepted me. She wrapped one arm around my shoulders and pulled me into a side hug. You doing okay? She asked. People loved that bit with you. Her perfume was overwhelming, and her smile sat right next to my ear. Every part of me wanted to shove her away in front of everyone. I am good. The lie came out smooth and automatic like I had practiced it for years. That was brutal, I added. You really went all in. Her laugh came easy, and she squeezed my arm like we shared some secret. I knew you could handle it, she answered. You always can. There was a camera pointed at us, and that changed everything. I heard the photographer ask us to stay close for one more shot. So I kept my face relaxed and tilted my head toward her shoulder. In the picture, I probably look like I am hugging my best friend. In my head, I was counting every word she had thrown at me. We shifted into place with my sister between us for the sibling photo. Smile bigger, the photographer urged. This is the one she frames. My sister leaned back into us and whispered out of the corner of her mouth. Please don't be mad right now, she murmured, just for tonight. I held my grin because the last thing I wanted was to wreck her picture. After the photo, my mom appeared at my elbow out of nowhere. You look stiff during that toast, she commented. Everyone knew it was a joke. There was no question in her voice, just a warning. I swallowed down the answer I wanted to give her. If I opened that door here, it would not close again calmly. Yeah, I know, I replied. Guess I was surprised. She patted my arm like I was a kid sulking over nothing important. Don't make this into drama, she added. Your sister deserves a peaceful night. Then she drifted away toward another table, already smiling again. I stood there realizing my reaction was now the real problem to them. The DJ called everyone to the dance floor for the next part of the program. People pushed their chairs back and moved toward the center with fresh energy. My phone buzzed once more in my hand with another notification. Someone had tagged me in the video clip from earlier. My own face stared back at me from the thumbnail like a stranger under a spotlight. I sat back down instead of joining the dancing crowd. My fiancé slid into the chair beside me and watched my hands. Do you want me to ask them to cut that from the final video? He asked. The thought of that conversation made my skin crawl. It also made me realize this night had just turned into a project to manage. My phone vibrated hard enough to knock against the nightstand. I flinched awake, grabbed it, and saw the screen fill with alerts. Mentions, tags, new followers, all stacked on top of one another. For a second I hoped it was about my sister's dress or the cake. Then I saw the first thumbnail of my own face at that table. The preview showed me half laughing, half frozen, eyes wide. Caption on top of the clip read, Maid of Honor destroyed the sister. My thumb hovered over play while my stomach flipped hard. I knew exactly which moment it had to be, but I tapped anyway. Apparently I needed to watch myself get humiliated from a new angle. The sound hit first, loud cheering even from my phone speaker. Whoever recorded it had zoomed in tight on me and the head table. You could see the microphone in her hand and my fake grin in the background. The laugh after one of her lines rolled through the room like a wave. Seeing it from outside made everything feel even more vicious. The comments underneath came into focus as the video looped. "She really went there," someone had written, followed by crying emojis. Another person added, "Best speech I've heard, poor sister though." A third had just typed, "I would die if that were me." That last one landed hard because I had almost done exactly that. While I scrolled, new reactions kept popping up in real time. Little hearts, laughing faces, people tagging friends to come watch. Most of the names were cussy. NS friends of friends, wedding guests. There were also strangers who had no idea who I was at all. To them, I was just the punchline in a viral moment. A private message box slid over the screen from one girl I recognized. "Are you okay? That looked rough," she wrote. Before I could answer, another message appeared from someone else. "OMG, you handled that like a champ," they said. I would have cried. The truth was, I had just moved the crying to the bathroom instead. The bridesmaids' chat lit up with fresh bubbles while I watched the clip. I forced myself to open that too, even though I already knew the tone. "Last night was legendary," one of them had posted. Another wrote, "That line about the sister killed, you are insane." They dropped a series of fire emojis, and I felt my skin prickle. Near the top sat a message from the maid of honor herself. "Glad everyone enjoyed it. Maybe I missed my calling," she'd typed. She attached a different recording of the same moment from closer up. In that one you could hear my mom's laugh clearly, and that hurt. I watched her throw her head back while my own face stayed stiff. I scrolled higher out of reflex and hit older parts of the conversation. There were earlier jokes about me being dramatic whenever plans changed. Then teasing about me being late on decisions for dresses and travel. At the time I had sent laughing emojis like I was in on it. Reading it now, the whole thread felt like a slow build toward last night. From the bathroom, water started running, and my fiancé called my name. "You awake?" his voice carried through the thin wall between rooms. "Yes," I answered. "I already have an audience on my phone." He stepped out a minute later and saw the screen in my hand. His mouth pressed into a flat line that I knew meant trouble. "Let me see." I passed the phone over because there was no point protecting him from it. He watched the clip once without expression, then replayed it straight away. The second time he stared at my face in the frame instead of her. When it ended, he lowered the phone very slowly. "They posted this everywhere." He sounded calm, which was worse than if he had yelled. "Of course they did," I answered. "Everyone thought it was hilarious." He looked at me like he was checking whether I actually believed that. Underneath the sarcasm, I kind of did, which scared me. "We can ask people to take it down," he suggested, "at least our families." The idea sent a jolt of dread through my chest. I imagined texting my cousin and saying, "Hey, please delete your favorite wedding moment." In my head, I could already hear the accusations of being uptight. "We both know that would blow up even more," I said. He tossed the phone onto the bed and rubbed his face once. "Then what are you going to do?" he asked, staring at the ceiling. I looked at the screen lighting up again with more alerts. "I do not know yet," I admitted, "but I'm not starting with a mass takedown." The thought of that fight made my shoulders tense. A new notification banner crawled across the top from my sister. "Brunch at 11, please be on time," the text read. Nothing about last night, nothing about the speech or my exit. Just instructions like we were talking about any normal post-wedding plan. I stared at that one line longer than all the comments combined. He read it over my shoulder and let out a short breath. "She really didn't say anything about what happened," he murmured. I shrugged because I did not trust myself to answer. Part of me still wanted to believe she had just been shocked into silence. Another part suspected she was hoping I would just act fine. I finally got up and dug through my suitcase for clothes. No mirror analysis, no cute choices, just whatever felt easiest to move in. My hands moving gave me something to do besides read more replies. Behind me, the phone buzzed again on the bed like an angry insect. I resisted the urge to grab it until I heard the specific tone for family. Another message from my sister popped in above the last one. "Also, people keep sharing videos of the toast. It got kind of big," she wrote. I typed a reply and deleted it 3 times before settling. Yeah, I've seen, I sent nothing more. Everything else felt like it would start a war we were not ready to have. Dots appeared as she started to answer right away, then vanished. Then they came back, then vanished again. I watched that tiny dance and realized she was debating her words. Finally, the text arrived. Hope you're not mad at her, you know she jokes like that. It took me a solid minute to breathe before writing back. Every response in my head sounded either pathetic or explosive. I am just surprised, I typed, still processing a little. I added nothing else because we both knew that was already loaded. The dots returned shorter this time. Please don't let this overshadow everything, her next message read. We worked so hard on yesterday, I want good memories. There it was, the subtle shift where my reaction became the threat. I caught myself apologizing in advance in my thoughts. I will be there, I answered, I will keep it calm. He watched me send that and shook his head slightly. You do not owe them a performance, he said, grabbing his shirt. I owe her being present at least, I replied, pulling on jeans. He gave me a look that mixed frustration and concern. Being present doesn't mean letting them replay that toast over pancakes. On the drive to the brunch spot, my phone stayed in my bag. I could feel it vibrating against my leg again and again. I focused on the road signs and the rhythm of the tires. Every time it shook, I imagined another person laughing at the clip. By the time we parked, my jaw ached from clenching. Inside, the sound of chatter hit before I even spotted anyone. My sister stood near the entrance hugging guests as they arrived. Next to her was the maid of honor, animated and glowing like a minor celebrity. They both turned when we walked in and their smiles landed on me. I forced my features into something that looked open. There she is, the maid of honor called out, waving her hand high. Her tone made it sound like I was late to my own roast. She came over and wrapped me up in another side squeeze. How are you still alive after all that attention? She asked. The urge to push her away ran up my arms. I'm still vertical, I answered, pulling back from the hug. Your moment is all over the internet already, she said, eyes bright. Our phones blew up this morning, people loved it so much. She looked delighted, like this was proof of success. I wondered if she noticed that I had not laughed once. My sister stepped in between us and grabbed my wrist gently. Come on, we're grabbing a table for family, she said quickly. Her touch lingered just long enough to feel like a warning. We followed her toward the back, passing groups already eating. I could hear little fragments of last night being quoted as we moved. At the table, my mom already sat with a plate in front of her. You look tired, she commented as soon as I sat down. Rough night, I replied, aiming for neutral. She spread jam on a piece of toast, movements neat and controlled. You'll laugh about that speech one day, she added, not looking up. Maybe, I said, even though I doubted it. Across from us, my cousin pulled out her phone with a grin. You guys have to see this angle, she announced to the whole table. My stomach dropped because I knew exactly what she meant. She hit play and turned the screen so everyone could view it. My own voice came out of the little speaker, muted and awkward. The maid of honor's lines followed, sharp and well delivered. The table cracked up again right on cue at each punch. Even people who had not been there leaned in to watch. I stared at my coffee and fought the urge to walk out. My fiancé broke the pattern first, pushing his chair back slightly. We've all seen it, he said, eyes fixed on my cousin. His tone was still polite, but there was an edge underneath. Maybe we can actually talk about the wedding and not just that. The phone lowered a few inches, though the clip kept playing. My cousin frowned and locked her screen. I just thought it was funny, she muttered, glancing at my sister. My sister sent me a quick look, somewhere between pleading and defensive. I don't think she meant anything by it, she said. That one sentence packed a whole history into 5 words. The maid of honor joined our group a moment later, plate in hand. Are we talking about my big performance? She asked, sliding into a chair. Apparently the universe did not plan on giving me a breather. Your show was hard to escape today, my fiancé answered, sipping his drink. She laughed like that was the biggest compliment. I hope you know it came from love, she told me, leaning forward. We've been through so much, I had to keep it real. Her hand reached across the table toward mine and stopped halfway. I stared at that gap between our fingers and felt my patience thin. Something inside me finally shifted from hurt to a slow burn. Keeping it real is one thing, I said, voice steady. Announcing my whole dating history to 200 people is another. Her smile faltered for the first time since we arrived. For a second I thought she might apologize, actually apologize. Instead she blinked and regrouped. You always tease me about my relationships, she replied, shrugging. I figured we do that kind of thing with each other. She looked around the table for backup, waiting for someone to nod. Most eyes dropped to plates or phones or anything else. No one wanted to step onto that line with us. My sister cleared her throat and tried to smooth the air. Yesterday was a lot, she said, fingers twisting her napkin. We're all tired and emotional and maybe are eating into everything. Her gaze bounced from me to the maid of honor and back. The word maybe hung there like a test. I focused on cutting my food into tiny pieces. If I looked up, I knew I would say something I could not take back. Inside my head, I replayed the speech, the group chat, the clips. All of it now had a new filter, not just harmless teasing. It felt like I had been the target for a while and only just noticed. The maid of honor checked her phone under the table, screen glowing. Her mouth twitched at something she read, and she smirked lightly. My phone buzzed again beside my plate, and I glanced down. A notification showed a fresh post tagged with both our names. Caption on that one read, "If your friend can't take a joke, find a new friend." I did not open it, I did not have to. I could already imagine the clip, the replies, the laughing faces. My fork scraped against the plate, and everyone at the table heard it. For once, nobody laughed or pretended not to notice. In that quiet scrape, I realized the story they were telling about me had shifted for good. I hit pause on the newest video and called my sister. My thumb moved faster than my brain, I just knew I was done watching. Her contact photo popped up while the frozen frame showed me at the table again. She let it ring long enough that I almost hung up. When she finally answered, her voice was already guarded. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, like this was any normal Sunday. "I just saw another recording of the speech," I said, keeping my tone flat. Silence stretched for a beat, then two, and I pictured her chewing her lip. "Yeah, people keep sending them," she said. It kind of took off. The way she said it made it sound like a fun surprise. "I need to talk to you in person," I told her. "Not at brunch, not with everyone listening, just you and me." She blew out air right into the speaker, soft and annoyed. "Now," she asked, "we just finished eating over here." "Now," I repeated, "I'm still at the hotel, come up." Another pause, longer this time, and I could hear faint chatter behind her. "I'll drive over," she said finally, "give me 20 minutes or so." She hung up before I could change my mind or soften anything. I stared at the paused video on my screen, my face mid-fake laugh. For once, I closed the app instead of letting it replay. Those 20 minutes felt like a standoff with myself. I paced from the bed to the window and back without seeing anything. My fiancé watched me move, leaning against the dresser with crossed arms. "You sure you want to do this today?" he asked, not unkind. "If I wait, I'll chicken out," I answered, "or she'll decide it's old news." He nodded once and picked up his keys from the table. "I'll give you space," he said. "I'll go grab coffee downstairs." "Stay close," I replied, "just not in the room when she's here." He touched my shoulder as he passed, quick and steady. The door shut behind him with a sound that felt final. 10 minutes later, a text arrived from my sister. "I'm in the lobby," it read. "Do you want me to come up?" I typed back the room number with fingers that did not feel like mine. My heart picked up speed when I heard the elevator ding down the hall. Every step outside sounded louder than it really was. She knocked twice, sharp and fast. I opened the door, and we stood staring at each other for a second. Her makeup was lighter than yesterday, her hair thrown into an easy tie. She looked tired but also annoyed that we were doing this. "Can I come in?" she asked, like she might bolt if I said no. I stepped aside and let her pass into the room. She dropped her bag onto the chair and stayed standing near the bed. "So," she started, crossing her arms, "you sounded pretty serious on the phone." My mouth went dry for a second, then the words pushed through. I am serious, I said. That whole speech situation is not okay. Her shoulders tensed at the word situation. It was a toast, she answered. People joke during those, you know that. I felt my jaw tighten and my fingertips dig into my palm. Jokes are fine, I said. Broadcasting my love life as a comedy routine isn't. She rolled her eyes just slightly, like I was overreacting. You know how she is, she replied, voice rising a little. If we told her to be boring, you would complain about that too. That twisted something in me, because she skipped right over the harm. You approved that, I asked. You actually heard those lines before last night. I watched the color shift in her cheeks and knew the answer. She ran parts by me, she admitted, not every single word. I let that sit between us for a moment and listened to my pulse. Did you hear the part about me being everyone's training girlfriend? I asked. Her eyes flicked away to the window, then back to the floor. I thought it would just sound silly, she muttered, not like an attack. It was an attack, I said, slower no. You saw my face. She winced and rubbed her forehead, like the memory hurt her too. I saw you freeze, she said quietly. I also saw people roaring with laughter. Her voice tripped on roaring and she caught it with a swallow. I panicked and figured you would talk to me after, not during. Except I ran to the bathroom instead, I replied, feeling heat rise. Because the whole hall was looking at me like I was part of the show. She grabbed the back of the chair and squeezed until her knuckles blanched. I asked Mom if we should check on you, she said. She told me to wait. I filed that away for later, because that opened a new wound. I took a breath and tried not to yell. Right now, it feels like everyone cares more about the recording than me. My voice shook just enough that I hated it. They're trading videos while I'm trying not to puke when my phone buzzes. I watched her stare at the carpet, jaw clenched tight. I get that you're embarrassed, she said, choosing each word slowly. That's not the same thing, I cut in, sharper than I meant. This isn't just embarrassment, this is my reputation being turned inside out. She looked up then, eyes flashing, walls going up. People know it's exaggeration, she snapped, they aren't stupid. They don't know that, I shot back, they only know what they heard. I thought of the comments from strangers, already forming their version of me. No one was there for my private mess-ups, just your friend narrating them. My throat tightened again, but I pushed through. And you laughed, which tells them it's all fair game. She flinched at that, like I had slapped her with the truth. I laughed because hundreds of eyes were on me, she said. If I looked upset, it would have ruined the whole vibe. Her hands moved as she talked, chopping the air. Do you have any idea how hard I worked for yesterday? There it was, the pivot I had been waiting for. I know you worked like crazy, I answered, I'm not blind. But you let her carve me up in the middle of it. My voice cracked on carve and I forced myself not to cry. You protected the mood, not your own sister. That is not fair, she fired back, taking a step closer. I didn't put the words in her mouth, I just okayed the tone. My chest burned hearing tone used like a defense. The tone was public shaming, I said, that's the tone you approved. We stared at each other and the air between us got tight. She dropped down on the edge of the bed, shoulders slumped. I hate this, she whispered, fingers twisting the blanket. Yesterday is supposed to be the best day of my life. Her voice shook now too, and for a second I almost hugged her. Then I remembered sitting under that spotlight while everyone howled. I am not trying to wreck it for you, I said, softer but steady. I am trying not to pretend I enjoyed being humiliated. She looked up with wet eyes and a hard-set jaw. If you keep focusing on this, it's all you're going to remember, she said. And it's all I'm going to remember too. Then maybe we both need to remember it, I answered. Because pretending it was harmless is how I keep ending up like this. She blinked at the word keep, catching the hint of pattern. What does that mean? She asked, staring straight at me. It means I'm done laughing off being the designated mess, I replied. She stood up again, anger pushing past the guilt. So what, you want me to disown my maid of honor now? Her voice climbed higher with each word. She threw one wild toast and now I'm supposed to cut her out. The way she said one wild toast made me want to scream. I want you to admit she crossed a line, I said. And I want you to stop acting like I'm dramatic for saying so. My hands were shaking again, so I folded them tight. If someone had done that to you, I would have lost my mind. I left the implication hanging, heavy and obvious. She stared at me, then looked away again. I didn't think it would hit you this hard, she murmured. In my head, you would roll your eyes and move on. That sentence told me exactly what she believed about me. That I exist to absorb hits so other people can keep celebrating. So here's where I'm at, I said, hearing my own pulse. I am not talking to her again until she actually apologizes. My sister's eyes widened at that, like I had threatened the marriage. You can't ice her out, she blurted, she's basically family now. Her panic around that word basically told its own story. Watch me, I answered, calmer than I felt. No screaming, no scene, I just don't play buddy with somebody who did that. She rubbed her temples like I was giving her a migraine. This is going to make everything complicated, she said. It was already complicated, I replied, you just didn't want to look. Her phone vibrated on the nightstand and she glanced down. I caught the maid of honor's name on the preview before she flipped. Diet. She's outside waiting, my sister said, avoiding my gaze. She drove me over, we have to head back soon. The idea of that woman in the parking lot sparked a new decision. I want to talk to her before you leave, I told her. You can stay out of it, I just need 5 minutes alone. Her eyes went wide again, this time with something like fear. Please don't start a fight in front of everyone, she begged. In front of everyone, I repeated, no, this time it's just us. She hesitated, then nodded once like she was signing a contract. Fine, she said, but if this blows up, it's on you. That line stung more than it should have, but I let it pass. I grabbed my room key and walked toward the door before I could stall. My legs felt shaky, but my steps did not slow. We took the elevator down in tight silence. She stepped out first and pointed through the glass toward the parking area. The maid of honor leaned against her car, scrolling on her phone. She looked relaxed, like nothing in her world had shifted. I felt my nails press into my palm as we approached. I'll wait inside, my sister muttered, heading toward the lobby. That left the two of us in the lot, sun beating down hard. The maid of honor looked up and gave me a bright grin. Hey, star of the show, she called, lifting her hand. The nickname made my stomach lurch. We need to talk, I said, stopping a few feet from her. Something in my tone must have registered because her smile faded. She locked her car and slipped her phone into her pocket. Okay, she answered slowly, guess we're doing this. For once, no one else was watching us. You hurt me last night, I started, not dressing it up. Not just a little edgy, not playful, actually hurt. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. I thought we did that with each other, she replied, brows drawn. You roast me, I roast you, that's our thing. There is a difference between a private jab and a microphone, I said. You turn my worst choices into entertainment for a hall of people. Her mouth tightened at worst choices, like I had insulted her material. You make fun of my dating record all the time, she shot back. You call every guy I like temporary, tell me I collect disasters. I blinked because I could not deny any of that. I pictured texts I had sent where I used those exact words. At the time it had felt like teasing, maybe tough love. Now it sat between us, ugly and exposed. I swallowed hard and did not reach for easy excuses. You're right, I said, the admission rough in my throat. I have been harsh about your relationships and I regret that. Her eyes widened at regret, like she had not expected that angle. But I never stood up with a microphone and did a monologue about them. I gestured toward the hotel, toward the hall where it happened. She folded her arms and looked away toward the street. You never needed a microphone, she answered, everyone already knew. The way you rolled your eyes, the comments you dropped at parties. Each sentence was a tiny punch and they landed. Last night was the first time I felt like the room was laughing with me. That line landed like a weight in my chest. So this was payback, I asked, voice low. Not a joke gone wrong, not misjudged tone, straight revenge. She shook her head, then nodded halfway, conflicted. It was both, she said finally, and I won't lie, it felt good. Hearing that hit harder than any line from the toast. You plan to embarrass me, I said, needing to hear it out loud. You wrote that knowing I would be trapped at that table. My mind flashed back to her eyes on me during each punchline. It all made a cruel kind of sense now. I plan to knock you down a peg, she replied. Because you act like you're above my chaos, like your choices are smaller. Her voice shook, anger and hurt mixed into each word. You always have an opinion about my life, about my job, my dates. Last night I finally got to flip the script. In the moment, I wanted to argue that I was just blunt. I wanted to point out the times she had asked for honesty. But standing there, I could see how those moments looked from her side. Me with the stable partner, her with the revolving door. Me rolling my eyes, her pretending it did not sting. I should have realized it wasn't landing as playful, I said. I should have listened when you went quiet instead of laughing back. That was the truth, even if I hated admitting it in that lot. But the way you chose to answer it was nuclear. Now people who barely know me think I'm some joke ex. She stared at the ground and let her arms drop. I didn't think it would explode like this online, she muttered. I figured it would live in the wedding video, and that was it. I watched her chew her lip, same nervous habit as my sister. Once people started posting, it got out of my hands. You could still say something, I reply. Not letting her off. You could at least stop sharing it, stop commenting like it's your highlight reel. She looked up sharply at that, ego pricked. That's my work, she snapped, then caught herself. I mean, I wrote that whole thing, it's the only thing people are praising me for. There it was, the piece I had not wanted to see. Her pride was tied to the impact, not the fallout on me. You are more proud of the laughs than worried about what it did to us, I said. My voice came out tired instead of sharp. Do you realize that, or are you not ready to admit it yet? She opened her mouth, then shut it again. I care about you, she said finally, softer. I just also liked winning for once. That word winning twisted in my gut. This isn't a game, I answered, this is my actual life. I could feel something inside me finally stepping back from her. So where does that leave us, she asked, searching my face. Because I am not going to grovel for the internet. I almost laughed at that, because it showed what she thought I wanted. I don't care about your image online, I replied. I care that you don't seem sorry for what you did to me. She flinched like that struck closer than anything else. I am sorry you feel bad, she said slowly, weighing each word. But I am not sorry for calling out the way you always act. That phrasing told me everything I needed to know. Sorry you feel bad, not sorry I hurt you. Okay, I said, more to myself than to her. Then I am done trying to convince you this was cruel. I stepped back from the car and let my hand drop from the door. From now on, we can be polite in group settings and that's it. No more private jokes, no more giving you access like before. Her mouth fell open at that, real shock for the first time. You are cutting me off, she asked, voice rising. Over one speech, after everything we've been through. I shook my head, feeling weirdly calm. I'm drawing a line, I said. If that feels like cutting you off, maybe ask why. She stared at me for a long moment, eyes glossy and furious. Your sister is going to hate this, she said, unlocking the car. She already told me she's scared you will ruin future holidays. I swallowed hard at that detail but did not back down. If she wants to blame me for your choices, that's on her, I answered. She slid into the driver's seat and gripped the steering wheel tight. You always have to be the wounded one, she muttered, not quite looking at me. You never admit you're the one who starts half of this. I let that hit and did not deny my share of the mess. I'm admitting my part, I said quietly. I'm just not accepting the punishment you chose. Without another word, she pulled the door closed and started the engine. I stood there while the car rolled out of the spot and turned away. My reflection flashed in her side window for a second, then vanished. When the lot was empty again, my legs suddenly felt heavy. I walked back toward the lobby, every step both lighter and heavier at once. Inside, my sister was waiting near a chair, hands clasped. Her eyes jumped to my face as soon as the doors opened. How did it go? She asked, not sure which answer she wanted. It went, I replied, dropping my key on the table. Her shoulders slumped like that was the worst outcome. She looked upset when she drove off, my sister said quietly. Yeah, I answered, turns out hearing the truth isn't her favorite thing. A flicker of defensiveness crossed my sister's features. You know she feels attacked by you too, she said. That sentence hit like a tired, familiar pattern. For what it's worth, I own my part, I told her. I told her I've been harsh and that I regret it. My sister studied my face, searching for cracks or lies. And did she own anything? She asked finally. Not in any way that actually changes what she did, I answered. She looked down at her hands, picking at a nail edge. I don't know how to fix this, she murmured. I felt something inside me soften and harden at the same time. You don't have to fix it, I said. You just have to stop pretending it didn't happen. She nodded once, but her eyes were far away. Later upstairs, I dropped onto the bed and opened my phone. The recordings were still there, the comments still flowing in. I scrolled up through old threads with the maid of honor. There we were, trading jabs I once thought were harmless. Now every line read like a warning I had ignored. I clicked on a photo of us from months before. Our faces pressed together, matching smiles, inside joke in our eyes. I stared at it for a long time, trying to line that girl up with today. Then I hit delete, not as a dramatic gesture, just as a tiny step. Watching it vanish felt both painfully small and strangely huge. By the time my fiancé returned with coffee, my head hurt. He handed me a cup and watched my face as I took a sip. How bad was it? He asked, dropping into the chair. Not a screaming match, I answered. Worse, it was clear. His eyes softened like he understood more than I said. Clear how? He asked, leaning forward. She meant it, I replied, staring at the ceiling. Every line, every laugh, it was all on purpose and it felt good to her. Saying that out loud finally made it real to me. I felt my throat tighten and did not bother hiding it. He reached for my hand, warm and steady. So what do you want to do next? He asked. I looked at our joined hands, then at my buzzing phone. I think I'm done pretending this is just wedding drama, I said. This is who they are with me, and I have to decide what that means. The email subject line flashed while I was scrolling nothing. Your wedding film is ready. My thumb hovered over it and my heart started that stupid fast beat. On the couch next to me, he muted the TV without asking. You want to watch it now? His voice came out careful. If I don't do it now, I won't do it ever. That was the truth, and I hated that it was. I tapped the message and the link filled the screen. My reflection looked back at me in the black video box. I hit play before I could think my way out. Soft music started and a slideshow of everyone smiling rolled past. Dinner, dancing, decorations, all cut together to look perfect. He watched my profile instead of the screen because he knows me. My shoulders stayed tight even during the harmless parts. I was just waiting for the moment everything turned. The video moved into the reception and the energy shifted. You could see the head table, the glasses, my sister glowing. A voiceover of the efficient faded out, and the sound from the room took over. I knew exactly what scene came next because there was a mic in frame. My fingers dug into my knees and I did not hit skip. There she was behind the microphone again, eyes bright. The editor had timed her speech so it hit even faster. They cut straight from her setup to the first sharp line about me. The crowd laughter came through clear, like it was happening again. I watched my own face in the background try to keep up. On the screen, my smile flickered, then locked in place. You could see the moment my eyes stopped matching my mouth. Whoever edited this had zoomed in right as that happened. I wondered if they knew they caught the exact second my stomach dropped. Watching it from the outside made it feel meaner than I remembered. Then came the part about me being everyone's trial run. They did not bleep it, they did not soften it. The room roared and the camera panned across the guests. People clapped, hit the table, bent over laughing. It lingered on my mom with her head tipped back, delighted. The cut back to me was brutal. There I was, hands under the table, shoulders tight, jaw fixed. I looked almost calm, which is wild considering how I felt inside. If you did not know me, you might think I was in on it. Knowing me, I could see my panic behind the forced stillness. Then the line about me finally finding someone willing to keep me. Next to me, my fiancé flinched even though he had heard it already. On screen, he reached under the table for my knee and squeezed. The camera caught that too, like it was part of the entertainment. I did not realize until that moment how exposed he had been as well. The video showed me stand up after her last cheers. The chair scraping noise cut through the room audio again. I watched myself mumble something and walk off across the floor. The editor did not fade out, they followed my back all the way to the door. It looked like a tiny walk of shame in high definition. The film then jumped forward to first dances and cake cutting. I barely registered those parts, my brain was still stuck at the toast. My body was there on the couch, but I kept seeing my face on that screen. By the time the credits rolled, my coffee had gone cold in my hand. The silence after the music stopped felt louder than the whole speech. He reached for the remote and paused the replay menu. "You don't have to keep this," he said quietly. "I know," I answered, "but that's not really the point now." Because the truth is, deleting our copy would not erase everyone else's. That whole section already lived in too many phones. My actual phone buzzed on the table like it heard my thoughts. A new text popped up from my sister, right on cue. "Just watch the video, it's beautiful," she wrote with a heart. Another bubble appeared right under it before I could answer. "They kept most of the speeches, that one is my favorite part." My stomach tightened at that word favorite. I stared at the screen long enough for my eyes to blur. He leaned over to read and let out a low breath through his teeth. "What are you going to reply?" he asked, not telling me what to say. For once I had no automatic script ready. "Yeah, they did a good job," I typed slowly. "Then ideally." Ted that and sat there with an empty bubble. Finally I wrote, "I watched it too, that part is still pretty rough for me." I sent it before I could soften the wording again. My pulse jumped while the little delivery check appeared. Her answer came faster than I expected. "I knew you were going to focus on that," she wrote. "Can you please try to see the whole day, not just that moment?" The phrase "that moment" made my teeth clench. As if it was a minor slip, not the spine of the video. "I'm not ignoring the rest," I replied, fingers shaking. "I'm just telling you that seeing it edited like that hurt." The dots appeared, disappeared, then came back again. "I feel like you want me to regret the entire thing," she wrote. "If I let you, you'll turn my wedding into a trauma story." That line punched straight through my chest. I read it twice just to make sure I saw it right. So in her version, I was the one rewriting history too dramatically. In mine, I was just trying not to pretending everything was sweet. Those two realities were never going to match. "I want you to regret letting someone degrade me in your spotlight," I sent back. "And I want you to understand why that sticks in my head." No emoji, no softener, just the plain truth. She did not respond right away, and the empty screen hummed. I could feel another kind of silence starting, the long kind. My phone lit again, this time with my mom's name. I knew this escalation pattern too well. He watched my face and mouthed, "You okay?" I nodded and hit accept, even though my throat felt tight. "Hi," I said, bracing myself. "You need to stop fighting with your sister about that speech," my mom said immediately. No greeting, no small talk, just straight into it. "She is devastated that you keep bringing it up." I almost laughed at that word, devastated, being used for her. My own feelings apparently were just an inconvenience. "I'm not fighting with her," I said, voice steady. "I'm explaining that seeing it again brought everything back." My mom made a short sound, half sigh, half scoff. "You are dragging this out," she answered. "People joke at weddings all the time." I felt my free hand curl into a fist against my leg. "This was not a light joke," I replied, slower now. "It was targeted, personal, and now it's recorded forever." She cut in before I could say more. "Everyone knows it was exaggerated," she insisted. "No one thinks you're actually that bad." I thought about strangers in the comments section and bit my tongue. "Whether they believe every detail or not isn't even the only thing," I said. "It's about the fact that someone you brought in used me as material." On the other end, I could hear plates clink and a TV somewhere. She was doing chores while talking me out of my own anger. "You are making it hard to move forward as a family," she said. There it was again, that flip where my discomfort became the real problem. "So what do you want me to do?" I asked, already dreading the answer. She didn't hesitate, not even a second. "Reach out to her and clear the air," my mom said. "This cold shoulder thing is hurtful." I had to pull the phone away from my ear for a beat. She humiliated me in front of everyone, I said quietly. And I'm the one who's supposed to fix her hurt feelings now. My mom's voice hardened in a way I recognized. You were not blameless before this, she replied. You made plenty of comments about her life too. She was right about that, and hearing it from her stung. Yes, and I admitted that, and I'm working on it, I said. What I'm not doing is pretending what she did is equal payback. There was a long pause on her end, longer than before. Your sister is trying to enjoy being newly married, she said finally. She feels like you're determined to poison it. That sentence sat heavy between us. Like I was the one stirring something toxic into her memories. I skipped nothing, I said. I showed up, smiled, did everything she asked. I just chose not to laugh when the joke was me. My mom's tone dropped lower, like she was tired. We are having a little celebration next weekend, she said. Your sister wants to play the video for some relatives who could not come. I could already see where this was heading, and my stomach flipped. She wants you there, and so does her maid of honor. Everything in me went cold at that last part. So let me get this straight, I answered slowly. You want me to sit in the room while everyone watches that part again. And I'm supposed to smile so your guests are comfortable. I could hear my own voice sharpen and did not soften it. You don't have to sit in the front, my mom rushed out. You can step out during that section if it bothers you. The idea of sneaking away like a kid who couldn't handle adult humor made me feel sick. I am not going to disappear so people can laugh at me without the awkward part, I said. And I'm definite. I'm not going to pretend I'm fine chatting with her after. So you're not coming, my mom asked, and now there it was. If she's there, I am not, I answered. Silence again, this one even heavier. That will break your sister's heart, she said finally. She will take it as you boycotting her marriage. I closed my eyes and counted 3 slow breaths. I am not boycotting her marriage, I said. I am choosing not to share space with someone who clearly enjoys cutting me down. If my sister decides to fold that into her marriage, that's her decision. My mom exhaled into the line, long and unhappy. You're being stubborn, she said. And you're choosing peace and quiet over my dignity, I answered. That stunned both of us, you could hear it. We'll talk later, she said at last, and the call ended. The quiet after felt almost physical. I dropped the phone on the couch and stared at the ceiling. My chest hurt, my eyes burned, and my hands would not stop shaking. He reached over and pulled me into his side without speaking. I rested my head on his shoulder and tried not to fall apart. It still felt like maybe I was overreacting even then. Tell me the meanest thought in your head right now, he said softly. I actually laughed once at that. I'm starting to think they like me more when I'm the joke, I admitted. Because then I don't rock the boat, I just keep absorbing hits. Saying it out loud made it sound harsher and also more real. He tightened his arm around me and stayed quiet for a moment. Do you believe you deserve what happened that night? He asked. The question landed heavier than any comment online. I think I made it easy, I answered honestly. I think I handed them stories and trusted them not to weaponize them. He nodded slowly and tapped my knee. Owning your part is good, he said. Letting them turn that into open season on you is not. I let that sink into my chest where the guilt had been sitting. For the first time, I felt something else there too, something like self-respect. A little later, my phone buzzed again with a group chat alert. Bridesmaids thread, the one that used to be full of nonsense. Since the wedding, it had gone oddly quiet, just the occasional meme. Now there was a new message from one of the quieter girls. Anyone else still feel weird about the sister part of the speech, she wrote. I stared at that sentence until it almost blurred. Someone reacted with a nervous emoji, then another with a shrug. No response from the maid of honor, none from my sister. I typed erased, then forced my fingers to move. Yeah, I wrote, it was a lot. The dots popped up from that same quieter bridesmaid. She switched to a private message instead of the group. Honestly, I almost cried for you, she wrote. I wanted to say something after but didn't want to make it worse. That admission hit me harder than any apology I hadn't got. Thanks for saying that now, I answered. I felt crazy for not laughing along like everyone else. She replied right away. You weren't crazy, she wrote. You were the only one not pretending. I've been replaying it too. That tiny bit of validation shouldn't have mattered that much. Yet my shoulders loosened for the first time in days. It didn't fix anything, but it proved I wasn't alone in how I saw it. I looked at the group chat name at the top of the screen. Then I pressed it and hit leave conversation. It asked if I was sure, and my finger did not hesitate. Once it disappeared from my list, I scrolled to the maid of honor's name. Our entire thread sat there, years of tiny digs and half jokes. I scrolled once, just enough to see the old patterns clearly. Then I blocked the contact and felt my heart slam in my chest. It wasn't dramatic, just a small tap and a confirmation. But it changed something inside me. I put the phone face down and sat there breathing for a minute. He watched me and lifted an eyebrow in a silent question. I just took myself out of the audience, I said. He smiled, tired and proud at the same time. How does that feel, he asked. Like I'm going to get yelled at later, I admitted. And also like I finally left a party that stopped being fun years ago. That mix of fear and relief was sharper than any hangover. By the time the sun went down, the house felt quieter. My sister had not texted again, my mom had gone silent. The only new thing on my phone was another repost of the clip by someone distant. I didn't open it, just swiped it away. For once, I chose not to watch myself suffer. Instead, I opened a browser and hovered over a blank space. My fingers typed almost on their own. Friend's maid of honor turned her wedding speech into a full roast of me. Then I added the actual subreddit name that deals with messy conflict. The title bar stared back at me accusingly. I started writing the post and deleted the first attempt. The first draft sounded too too polished, like I was building a case. I tried again, this time telling it like I would to someone on a long drive. I put in the ugly parts where I had been cruel to her before. I put in the sick feeling when I heard the crowd laugh at my life. My hands shook a little while I typed the worst lines. The part about being a trial run, the family screw-up piece, the internet clips. I included how I confronted her in the parking lot. How I owned my side and she still shrugged off hers. How my family now worried more about peace than about respect. Every few sentences I stopped and asked myself, am I twisting this to make me look better? Sometimes the answer was yes, and I rewrote it. There were moments where I sounded way too clean. I forced myself to put back the parts where I had rolled my eyes at her life. By the time I finished the whole thing, my chest hurt less. Not because telling strangers would fix my situation. Because seeing it laid out in front of me made the pattern clearer. I was not innocent, but I was not insane either. Both things could be true at once, and that felt important. I ended the post with the question that had been eating me. Am I blowing this out of proportion by skipping events she's at? Or is it reasonable to keep distance from someone who clearly enjoys humiliating me? Because my entire family is acting like I'm wrecking everything over a joke. And I honestly don't know anymore if I'm the problem or just the only one who stopped laughing.